Hello everyone, my name is Jeremy Eason, and this is my POP3S and SMTPS presentation. So I'm going to start out with giving you guys a POP3S overview. POP3 is an email retrieval protocol by default. It runs on port 110 and transmits data in plain text, making it insecure. POP3S is the secure variant wrapping POP3 traffic inside SSL and TLS encryption and using port 995. For Linux, the most common service to enable this is Dovenkite, which we'll configure in just a moment. Post Office Protocol 3 is a standard method used by email clients to retrieve messages from a mail server. It typically connects to the server on port 110 and downloads emails from the inbox onto the client device. In most cases, once the emails are downloaded, they are removed from the server unless the option to leave copies on the server is enabled. Because of its design, POP3 provides one-way sync from server to the client, meaning changes made on the client do not sync back to the server. POP3S is the secure version of this protocol. It uses SSL and TLS encryption to protect the connection between the user device and the mail server, ensuring that both login credentials and email message contents are kept safe during transmission. This encryption prevents eavesdropping, identity theft, and data breach, particularly on unsafe networks like public Wi-Fi. From a technical standpoint, POP3 usually operates over port 110 while POP3S runs on port 995, essentially wrapping POP3 traffic with SSL and TLS for security. Today, most modern email servers require POP3S instead of a plain POP3 to maintain secure communications and user transparency, privacy. Now I'm going to talk about configuring Dovecot POP3S. Dovecot is a secure and efficient mail server for Linux that supports POP3S, allowing encrypted email retrieval over port 995 using SSL and TLS. To configure it, administrators enable the POP3S protocol in Dovecot's configuration files and set SSL to required, and specify valid certificate and key path, further using CA signed certificates like Let's Encrypt. Strong encryption should be enforced by requiring TLS 1.2 or higher and secure cipher suits. Plain text authentication must be disabled, ensuring all logins occur over encrypted sessions. Security best practices include applying regular software updates, enabling detailed logins, integrating fail-to-ban to block brute force attempts, and restricting access to trusted IP addresses. When properly configured, Dovecot with POP3S ensures that email messages and credentials are fully protected in transit, aligning with compliance standards such as NIST, CSF, and CIS controls for secure communication. Now I'll be talking about some hardware recommendations for Dovecot. POP3S operates over port 995 and encrypts all communication, preventing interception and credential theft. To secure Dovecot, administrators should require SSL and TLS encryption and use modern protocols like TLS 1.2 or TLS 1.3, while disabling older versions such as SSVL2, SSL Volume 3, and TLS 1.0. Strong ciphers suits should be enforced, and CA signed certified certificates such as those from Let's Encrypt should be used instead of self-signed certificates to prevent man-in-the-middle attacks. Authentication must be properly secured by disabling plain text logins, ensuring all credentials are transmitted only over encrypted connections. Administrators can limit authentication methods to secure options like plain and login over TLS or more. Secure mechanisms such as CRAM MD5 or SCRAM SHA-256. Strong password policies combined with intrusion detection tools like fail-to-ban can help mitigate brute force attempts. Network access should be restricted by binding Dovecot only to necessary interfaces and allowing connections only on port 995. While unsafe protocols like IMAP or plain POP3 should be disabled to reduce the attack surface. I even have some command scripts for the Dovecock. On the left, you'll be able to enable the TSSL or the TLS, and on the right, you'll be able to configure POP3S listener. Now, I'll give you a quick SMTPS overview. Simple Mail Transfer Protocol Secure is the encrypted version of SMTP, which is the standard protocol used for sending email. While basic SMTP transmit messages in plain text, making it susceptible to interception, SMTPS adds SSL encryption to secure the connection between the email client and the mail server. This ensures that both login credentials and the contents of the message remain private during transmission, protecting users from threats such as eavesdropping and data theft, especially when using untrusted networks like public Wi-Fi. Now I'll talk about Windows IIS SMTPS. Windows IIS is a built-in component of Windows Server that allows a server to send and relay emails often used for application-generated emails, notifications, or internal mail routing. Although Microsoft no longer actively develops the IIS SMTP service, it is still found in many legacy environments, so understanding its security is important. From a security perspective, IIS SMTP must be carefully configured to prevent abuse. One of the biggest risks is Open Relay, where the server is misconfigured to allow anyone on the internet to send email through it. This can lead to spam and blacklisting. To prevent this, administrators should restrict relaying to authenticate users or specific IP addresses only. Now I'll talk some configuring for Windows IIS SMTPS. Configure IIS begins with installing the IIS role through server management or via PowerShell using the command install Windows Future Web Server. Once installed, administrators can manage IIS through the IIS Manager GUI, where they can create and configure websites, application pools, and virtual directories. Once installed, administrators can manage IIS through the IIS Manager GUI, where they can create and configure websites, application pools, and virtual directories. Application pools provide isolation between websites or applications, which allowing each to run under a dedicated process, which is own security identity, which enhances stability and security. Key configuration tasks include setting bindings to define the host names, IP addresses, and ports used by each site, enabling SSL to secure communications, and configuring authentication and authorization rules to control access. So now I'll go over some hardened recommendations for the IIS. One of the first steps is limiting install features and models. IIS uses a modular architecture, so only required components such as HTTP, HTTPS, or FTP should be installed, while optional models like WebDAV or legacy scripting engines should be disabled to reduce vulnerabilities. Application pools should be configured to run under least privilege accounts, isolating each website or application to prevent compromise from spreading. SSL should be enabled for all sites to encrypt traffic, and outdated protocols like SSL 2.0 or 3.0 or TLS 1.0 or 1.1 should be disabled. Administrators should also enable detailed login for monitoring traffic and detecting suspicious behavior, and tools like URL Scan and the IIS Security Toolkit can provide additional layers of protection. Examples of hardening in practice include disabling the trace and track HTTP methods via request filtering, enforcing TLS 1.2 or 1.3 for all bindings, restricting the maximum allowed content length to mitigate denial of service attacks, and configuring firewall rules to allow only trusted IP addresses to access the server. Now we'll move on to the Linux Postfix SMTPS. Postfix is a widely used open source mail transfer agent or on Linux that routes and delivers email. When configured with SMTPS, Postfix encrypts SMTP traffic using SSL, ensuring that emails and authentication credentials are protected during transmission. SMTPS typically operates on port 465, providing implicit TLS encryption immediately upon connection, unlike StarStils, which begins unencrypted and upgrades to TLS. Now I'll go over some postfix configuring. Restrictions to prevent unauthorized email relay and limit spam. To enable SMTPS in postfix, administrators first generate or obtain a valid SSL certificate and private key, usually stored under etc. SSL certs or etc. SSL private. Postfix main configuration file in parentheses is then edited to specify TLS parameters, including the certificate, pass, private key, and security protocols. Key configuration directives include SMTP-TLS-cert-file and SMTP-TLS-key-file for specific certificate path. SMTP-TLS-security-level was encrypt to enforce encryption, and SMTPD-TLS-protocols to define allowed TLS versions. For authentication, postfix can integrate with simple authentication and security layer to support secure username password logins over TLS. Administrators often enable logins to monitor incoming and outgoing connections, authenticating attempts, and potential abuse. Postfix can be configured with relay. Now I'm going to go into hardening for Linux postfix. Hardening postfix on SMTPS on Linux involves configuring the mail server to ensure secure, encrypted email delivery while minimizing the risk of abuse or compromise. Postfix supports SMTPS on port 465, which provides implicit TLS encryption immediately upon connection, protecting both messages content and users' credential. To harden postfix, administrators first ensure that a valid SSL or TLS certificate is installed and referenced in the configuration by using directives such as SMTPD-TLS-cert-file and SMTPD-TLS-key-file. LS security should be enforced by setting SMTPD-TLS-security-level equals encrypt and allowing only strong modern protocols such as TLS 1.2 and TLS 1.3 while disabling older versions like TLS 1.0 and SSL. To reduce the attack surface, postfix should restrict relaying to trusted IP addresses or authenticated users using the My Networks and SMTPD-recipient-restrictions directives. These are some of my amazing sources that I use for this presentation. And I would like to thank you all for taking your time to watch this presentation. I really hope you enjoyed it.